Continuiamo il
We
nostro
now
viaggio.
continue our journey, this time with a look inside PRM pharmacology. Physiological regulating medicine is founded on three major pillars. The first pillar is represented by the homeopathic tradition and by homotoxicology. The second pillar, which we have already seen, is identified with psychoneuroendocrino-immunology. We have still not encountered the third pillar, but it is just as important as the others, and it deals with the remedies that constitute nutritional supplements. Why is this pillar also so important? Well, the hormones, neuropeptides and interleukins, for example, are protein structures, and is therefore necessary to provide the body with the bricks with which these substances are constructed, the amino acids. Does this mean that vitamins and trace elements are not important to increasing enzymatic function? In a final analysis, our therapy, which is a biological therapy, travels along the track of enzymatic stimulation. So, the coenzymatic activity of vitamins or trace elements becomes fundamental. We love to talk about the Toolbag in pharmacology. Well, the Toolbag for physiological regulating medicine is really quite rich. Sometimes we draw from this bag by fishing for typical homeopathic remedies such as plant, mineral or animal substances. And sometimes we draw freely from the homotoxicology sub-bag of tools. For example, we use pig organ derivatives or intermediate catalysts or even nosodes. We have already understood how important it is to draw from the tool bag of physiological regulating medicine, and in particular PNEI, hormones, cytokines, etc. What is extraordinary is that the players of PRM pharmacology, i.e. the pharmaceuticals, are none other than a perfect assembly of these individual components. We often love to speak of the dream team, and every drug is a team, wherein a plant homeopathic remedy finds its maximum expression because an intermediate catalyst of the Krebs cycle is present, and of course, since an interleukin that enhances its action is present. One example that I believe is very explanatory in this sense is one of the most well-known pharmaceuticals, called Guna-Flam. So, let's get to know this drug, our broad-spectrum anti-inflammatory. You can note in this structure that we like to refer to as the pharmaceutical explosion that various groups of components are present. One of these groups, as you can see, is represented by typical remedies of classic homeopathy. For example, aconitum and belladonna. Alongside these remedies, whose functional mechanism we will see, the typical remedies of PNEI are also present. For example, anti-interleukin-1 or TGF-beta, or even interleukin-10 with its anti-inflammatory action, and there are also trace elements present, such as copper. Here I believe that it is very easy to observe how, in an individual drug as in a dream team, all of the components play together to beat the enemy, and in this case, our enemy is disease. Behind every PRM pharmaceutical, there is a profound homeopharmacologic study. Each drug is designed in the fundamental light of two principles, and the first principle is described in three terms: synergism, balance, and completeness of action. What does each of these terms mean? Synergism means that the remedies contained in each of the PRM pharmaceuticals altogether, like a team, lead to a superior result with respect to the action of every single component. What does balance mean? That every component is present in a precise dilution, or is present for a particular action in relation to other components, so that the action of the pharmaceutical is generally mild. For example, in Cytomix, a drug with an immunostimulatory action, many interleukins with Th1 polarity, and therefore stimulatory effects to the immune response, are present. But there is also an interleukin, interleukin-4, with Th2 polarity present. Why was it included? So that an overly strong stimulation of Th1 could thereby be avoided. The third term is completeness of action. The included remedies are chosen in order to cover all of the different extrinsic symptoms that accompany a certain disease. The second principle that has guided the composition and formulation of pharmaceuticals for physiological regulating medicine is even more interesting. Its statement is this: the etiopathogenetic path of the disease that a PRM pharmaceutical is meant to cure is inscribed in its pharmacological structure. To say it in a much simpler way, this etiopathogenetic path is reconstructed step by step with specific remedies, beginning with the study of the etiopathogenesis of a disease. To explain it very concisely with a simple example, the causes of gastritis with acidic hypersecretion can be different, ranging from alcohol to food. Alcohol or food, i.e. the stressor of the gastric mucosa, determines an alteration in acid secretion by the parietal cell. Too much hydrochloric acid, which inflames the gastric mucosa with accompanying typical gastritis symptomatology, is produced. At the same time, the mucosa responds with a defensive Cattara reaction, which is appropriate but up to a certain point, and if not treated properly, this gastritis can progress along its pathogenic path towards chronic gastritis or toward a peptic ulcer. This is a stereotypical path of gastritis with acid hypersecretion. We will note that the Guna stomach pharmaceutical, which is specific for the therapy of gastritis symptoms, contains remedies that saturate each of the ethiopathogenic steps of acid secretion gastritis. We have remedies that regulate acid secretion, remedies that symptomatically reduce mucosal inflammation, and remedies that modulate the Cattara reaction, which, if it reaches a certain extent, could become the ideal sustenance for the proliferation, for example, of Helicobacter pylori. A complete pharmaceutical would also, therefore, be capable of draining excess mucus. Finally, we have some remedies such as epidermal growth factor that are capable of inducing a proliferation of the mucosal epithelial cells and therefore counteracting the pathogenic evolution that could lead perhaps to a peptic ulcer. What have we drawn from classic homeopathy? Well, classic homeopathic pharmacology involves the use of plant, mineral, or animal remedies in accordance with the two fundamental principles of homeopathy. The first is the principle of infinitesimal doses,